Hello everyone and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, today I'm out walking and I'm going through my town. It's a perfect opportunity to practice describing things. So let's start with the weather. Well, it's kind of grey, overcast, and the sky is, well, it looks kind of angry. There's a mixture of grey, black parts, and the clouds are rolling by very, very quickly. Looking down to the ground, it's kind of reflecting that grey sky. It's been raining, so there's puddles of water everywhere. And looking around, part of this pavement is built using cobblestones. That's like little squares that stick up from the ground. Originally designed, I think, for horses. Cobblestones. So that shows just how old this part of the town is. Now, just carrying on with the descriptions. Well, I'm standing at an intersection. This is one of the busiest intersections in my town. That's where two main roads meet. In British English, we often refer to that area of town as the cross, because two roads cross each other. Some people say that there might be another reason why we talk about it being called a cross. It is possible that hundreds of years ago there would actually have been a physical cross standing at that point. Crosses then, and even now, were considered somehow to be lucky. And many of our churches, especially during the Victorian period of building, were all built where two roads meet on crossroads. In the past, in these podcasts, you've heard me talking about witch burnings. Our government burned many people as witches in the 16th and 17th century. And after they were burned, the ashes were often buried at crossroads where two roads met, because it was considered to be very lucky, of course, because it means that area is shaped like a cross, which again is probably because of religious significance. Getting back to my descriptions of where I'm standing, well, as I was mentioning, the roads and pavements are very, very wet, but I can tell you that they are drying very quickly. And today, apparently, is one of the hottest days of the year. It doesn't feel that way, but they're saying the temperatures are quickly rising. Now, I don't know what temperature it is exactly, but it's no higher than 12, that's for sure. Right, so let's talk about the buildings. Well, the buildings here are not particularly tall. And just looking up, I can see that towering above a few of these buildings is a really big, old church. Now, I don't know if it's still used. I'll be able to tell you more once I walk around the corner. Amongst the shops on this street, there's a barber, which clearly is operated by Turkish or Kurdish people. There's a pub, a bookmaker's, that's where you go to gamble if you're old enough. There's a Polish food shop. There's a hairdresser. There's another pub. There's a charity or second-hand shop. And above these shops, are very, very old buildings, which presumably in their day, when they were built, were either offices for solicitors, scribes, writers, or maybe just very expensive houses. I don't know. On the other side of the road, there's another Turkish barber. There's a loan shop for people who find it hard to get cash. There's also, let's see, there's a coffee shop that's shut down. Now, yeah, that church I was telling you about a moment ago, I can see it's all boarded up, so it's no longer used. Now, I'm just continuing to walk along the road here, and I'm coming to another junction. And this area is pedestrianised, which means cars aren't allowed. I can see more cobblestones, which of course is telling me that cars aren't allowed, because they wouldn't have cobblestones where cars could drive. And now I have a view, really, of the town centre. So I can see the town hall. Behind that, there's the government offices. There's a really large statue, quite an imposing statue, I think, of one of the town's, what would you call them? One of the town's leaders, I think, from many, many years ago. His name was J.P. Coates, or maybe it's Thomas Coates, his brother. I don't remember, but they built all of the thread mills here. And they were philanthropists. They gave a lot of things to the town. And they were considered good people in those days. I'm sure you can hear as well, the wind is blowing. So that probably will affect the way that you're hearing this podcast. So I've just stepped into a porch in order to continue talking. One of the main shops on this street is Pound Stretcher, which proudly tells us every penny counts, where everything inside is only around £1. I'm looking up to the top of the street. I can see one of the churches which Mr. Coates built. I think it's called Coates Baptist Church. Okay, there's a newsagent's. There's a sports shop selling items of clothing. They don't actually sell anything related to sports. It's just a clothing shop with sports brands. There's a pharmacy, another hairdresser, a cafe, a Vietnamese restaurant, and of course the town's war memorial. War memorials are very, very important. Every UK town has one, and once a year people congregate here in order to, I don't want to say celebrate, but let's just say in order to remember those people who died during the war. That's kind of a big deal. Aside from that, there's also the museum. Now, this is an interesting thing. My town has a very big museum. It's currently being renovated. So they've moved everything from the museum into a safe place underground. And that underground place is called the Secret Collection. It's all very clandestine. I don't know why you have to book to see it. I don't understand why it's closed sometimes, but from time to time we can get access to go in there, and it's very beautiful. And the new museum, which is costing millions, is due to open, I think, later this year or next year. There's a bank, and that's one of the last remaining banks in this town and indeed in this area, because all of our banks are closing down because everyone's doing things online. The government and many older people have been protesting that banks should be on the streets and should be available for everyone. But the banks, in defense, are saying, well, that would be really great if you actually use them. And they're saying that some of these branches receive as little as 10 customers a week. And then they remind us that they are not charities, and therefore they need to think about their future by realigning their businesses. So banks are all closing. It's not so bad though. You can do your banking in the post office. It now can do transactions for all the banks. But the problem with that is the post office itself now wants to be completely online, and it doesn't really want long queues of people standing there. So it's more and more difficult, I think, to access banking services. But, well, if you're online, everything should be easy. You can even cash checks online now, I think, by scanning them, and the bank will see if they're genuine. It's not all a bed of roses, though, I have to say. Looking around here, I can see that there's a few boarded up buildings which are old, dilapidated, falling down. This isn't good, and people are complaining. In fairness, the government have done a lot of things to make this place livable and beautiful, but there's a huge American-style shopping mall just a mile away from here, so I think most people go there. So there's a really old, dilapidated building. The for sale sign is looking very old, and I can see it was a cinema at one point, and there's shops around it, but the building looks really, really poor. It's grey, it has some broken windows, and that is a sight which you come across here fairly regularly, depending on the exact area that you're living in. There's many people moving around, some of them hurrying towards the train station, others hurrying towards the bus stop in order to get to work, and there's also a few people around who are looking a little bit lost. I don't think they're beggars, but they may be people with mental health issues. And that's kind of a big thing here now. Not only here, but I think all across the Western world. In our news today, I was reading that America's young people, apparently many of them, are committing suicide, to the point that they're very concerned. But I think when you're bombarded on your gadgets with negative images, it doesn't give a lot of hope. And it's very sad, because the news is given to us in kind of a negative way. And it's very easy to fall into that trap. And even I'm currently looking at ways to get out or get off of my social media platforms, because there's just too much negative info. I don't actually have to delete them. I just have to be more aware of what I'm seeing. That's all. I mean, you can easily, cater these things for your needs. You don't have to be looking at news if you don't want to. Right, there's people on bikes, people are walking. There's a few unsavory characters around as well. I don't know who they are, but it just reminds me to be careful with my bags, etc. And there's also shops which are getting deliveries. One of the highlights in my town, again, because of the government initiative to try to keep this place busy, they've renovated the local library, and it's now open for business in its new building. But a lot of people don't like it. I think it's just because naturally, if you ask someone their opinion, they're not going to say that the thing is good. They're going to find something wrong because you've asked for their opinion. But it's very good that the library's there. It's a safe place to go. It has a little coffee shop as well, I think, and a meeting area. I think it even has a roof patio. So it's a lovely place, but of course, unfortunately, it's still government employees. So trying to get any sense out of them about anything is like hitting your head against a brick wall. But it's a nice building. What else can I tell you? Okay, again, looking up, there's all these beautiful Victorian buildings which have been built in the style of Roman or Greek architecture. I think many of them are lying empty, but a few of them on the very top I can see are actually apartments, which is very beautiful. And there's even one there that seems to be a coffee shop of some kind upstairs. Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip around my town, and I hope as well you found some descriptive words that you can use. That's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk soon. See you. Bye.